Appreciate that.
Peter, thank you for your service. You're just recently back from Afghanistan, am I right?
That's true. So I just got off active duty. I was released from active duty August 11th.
Oh.
I served from August 1st of 2018, got back in July, and then by the time I got fully demobilized, it was August 11th when I fully got off active duty.
So, and you still haven't gotten accustomed to normal life, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm still feeling like I'm getting back into the groove of civilian life.
Okay.
We work 7 days a week. We work 12 to 15-hour days every day. So it's a long tour, and still starting to get used to being back home, reacquainted with the kids.
And you're a member of the bar. You passed the bar in New Jersey.
That's true. So I'm admitted to the bar in New York and New Jersey.
New York, very good. You're into a program that really has me interested. We were talking about it. Maybe you can give us a brief rundown as to the New Jersey
Veterans Chamber of Commerce.
That's the key, Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Now, I know we have Chamber of Commerce over here, but we don't have a Staten Island Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Maybe you can explain to us what it is that you do and with this organization.
So, sure. So what we do is we specialize in financial and economic benefits for our members. So while we have the VFW doing things on a national scale, doing things for benefits, the widowers' pension tax that they assess, we focus on making sure we have a level playing ground for our veterans in the state to compete in an open, competitive marketplace. That's our primary focus. So some of the things we ensure we do is enact laws. We inform the public about things that disproportionately affect veterans that don't impact normal families. And we seek legislative ways in the state, General Assembly and Senate to come up with ways of making the marketplace a lot more fair for veterans to compete and to operate in.
It's very interesting. It's we've had successes, I assume.
Yeah. So we recently just got something you probably don't know, most people don't know, is that the unemployment rate for spouses of active duty and reserve soldiers is 24%. Versus 3.7% nationally. So one of the big issues we find is that a lot of these people, spouses, are relocating, and every 2 to 3 years. So they never really build a career. Sometimes they're located in far-off places in the United States where there's not a lot of industry. So a lot of them are licensed as well. And one of the things the New Jersey Veterans Chamber of Commerce has just done is we just passed a law. We had influence in passing a law last year whereby people who relocate from other states have licenses are able to transfer, get a provisional license to practice in the state. So if you're a cosmetologist, you do makeup, you do hair. If you're a lawyer, if you're a nurse, exactly, Paul, that they're able to get a provisional license. So one of the things that I have to do as the legislative outreach and the public affairs officer for the New Jersey Veterans Chamber of Commerce is to bring some awareness of this to the public and, more importantly, to the state boards. A lot of these state boards don't know about the new law, and one of my things is to advise them about it and make sure they have mechanisms in place to allow these spouses of military families to get a provisional license.
In order to get a Chamber of Commerce formed, the Veterans Chamber of Commerce, what did it take to establish that? So
the founder and CEO is Jeff Cantor. He's a retired colonel, much like yourself, Paul. He retired a few years back, and he's the one who actually formed it. I just came on board about a week ago, so I wasn't really involved with the formation of the New Jersey Veterans Chamber of Commerce.
I'm interested in to see if that could be done here in New York.
Yes, I think it would be interesting to do so.
I'd be very interested in something similar like that. Anytime we're doing something for a veteran, we got a guy that runs around the studio and he keeps saying, "You paid your dues. It's time to get paid back." You know, and he's right. He's right, and this is something that'll help a veteran.
Absolutely. Some things that people don't appreciate, and me and Paul were talking about this before we went on air, is that a lot of veterans, especially National Guard and Reserve, they go and they put their life on hold for a year, maybe a little longer, a year, 18 months, especially if you're a sole practitioner. You come back and you're the sole person who runs a business. You effectively lost your entire business. The realities are people go to find other things. You have a service, you're a lawyer, you have your own law firm, like in the case with me. People have realities. They have to find other attorneys to do real estate closings for them. And by the time you come back, you have to start from zero in many ways. So one of those. So my point is, and I think a lot of viewers understand and appreciate, is that when they come back, we want to create an environment where they can help rehabilitate themselves, get back to being an active member of the community, be able to financially contribute to their families, to have a piece of the American dream, and be able to go ahead and actively participate and live a life with dignity. And that's a big part of what we do at the New Jersey Veterans Chamber of Commerce.
I'd go even further than that. Even if you're working for a corporation, and we talked a little bit about this also, particularly as a reservist, as a commander, I was doing 160 or more days of active duty a year. So my company had to figure out how to survive without me as senior manager for that amount of time. And then when I was deployed, I was gone for more than 2 years. So they had to basically backfill my position, yet still hold a position open for me, because that's the law. It's a very difficult thing for a company to do, so anything that you can do for those companies to help them also is important, because that's how the benefits come back to that family. I can tell you in my own instance, I got called from a vice president of human resources from my corporation, and they said, this is when the war in Iraq first started, and they knew I was a colonel. I mean, they knew, look how many days she's gone. But in any case, they said, we really don't have a written policy for what to do for reservists. What would you suggest? And I said, well, to be perfectly honest, what's right for me as a colonel is probably not right for a PFC or a corporal. I said, but I've got 2 young servicemen here. Let me talk to them. I said, in my mind, pay me the difference in the pay, and my secondary would be carry across my health benefits. But theirs may be different because they're younger. So I did talk to them, and I ended up getting back to them. Their concern, again, was, as mine, the pay difference, particularly in their case. And the secondary was, they really wanted to keep their health benefits so that their family didn't have to suddenly adjust, particularly if you got young kids. You've been to a certain doctor, you want to keep going to that doctor. You don't want to have to go to a VA provider or something like that, or a military provider. So I went back to this vice president. To be perfectly honest, I don't talk to vice presidents too often as a senior manager. That was very unusual. But they did come back to me and say, call me back. I did. And I said, well, here's the priorities. If you can do the pay, that would be very much appreciated. And the second is this. Well, why can't we do both? Says, you certainly can. Thank you very much. Right. So a lot of these things don't exist, but nowadays the reserves is a significant part of the force. So these type of impacts happen, but the active duty impacts also happen. So very important that these type of benefits are out there for our soldiers and sailors, airmen and Marines, so that they can still have their families taken care of while they're deployed. You don't need this issue when you're deployed.
Agreed.
Can you talk about anything else? Are there jobs programs, things like that for returning veterans?
So we have a number of different things that we've been working with state legislature. So one of the things we've been talking about is we have a job, access to capital symposium next month. So effectively, if you're a veteran, if you're a service member looking to start a business, something that's labor intensive, we have lenders coming in, giving seminars about different financial products that are open to them, that sort of thing. And then there'll be a kind of a question and answer session afterwards. You could talk about what's available as a veteran for starting up a business or getting additional capital for an existing business. Some of the other things we're doing, which I find really effective, is the veteran-friendly municipality certification that we're doing with the New Jersey Veterans Chamber of Commerce.
Can you explain that, what that is?
Sure. So municipalities that have resolutions in place that allows for a number of different criteria. One is if they agree to set aside for 6% of all governmental contracts, that they agree to give 6% to veterans. The other thing is that they agree to hire up to 5% of the workforce that are veteran workers. The other thing they also have is they agree to give everyone notification of upcoming bids. As you know, a lot of times they do these things kind of cryptically,
Right.
sometimes a little secretly, but this time they give everyone fair notice directly to these veteran organizations. And the last is they agree to do 3 parking spaces throughout the municipality. This gives some prominence and it gives honor, for the people, and it keeps that within the awareness of the public. So those are the types of things we work on. We also have a 3% set aside for disabled veteran businesses in the state of New Jersey, which passed 3 years ago. So far to date, while we have certain commitments from different organizations to do it, we have not had 1 penny yet. So it's been about 3 years, but we have not, even though it's a law, we don't have any actual funding yet. So we're comfortable right now working with the governor, working with the state legislature. They will fund it, and that's one of my jobs, legislative outreach, is to make sure they understand that there's no use of having a law unless you're actually going to fund it and bring it about.
I'd like to comment a little bit on that. In New York, New York State has a jobs program called the 55C. And what that basically does is it authorizes up to 500 disabled veterans positions available within the state government of New York State. We've been working with the legislature in this state. The problem with it is when they post a job, they don't identify it as 55C eligible. So a disabled veteran can go in and say, well, I'm a disabled veteran, I'm going to apply for these 10 jobs, but all 10 of them may not be for disabled veterans. Some jobs, obviously, they can't do because of their disability. So the legislation we've got, in fact, we passed the House and the Senate, so we're in good shape on both. It's just waiting for the governor. And I'm assuming that he's likely to sign it for Veterans Day. That's a little politics involved there. But if he signs that, when they post a job, it'll say the following 15 jobs or 50, or however many there are 55C eligible. And that will key anybody that job is available and a disabled veteran can take it. And you don't even have to take a test for that job. If you apply for it, you're a disabled veteran,
Automatic.
you automatically get that. So it's a very important program. So you may want to look at something like that in New Jersey, getting the set aside from the governor and then coming up. But unless it's identified, a lot of these things are cryptic and you don't know about it. You've got to get the easy identification in there to the veterans. And my finding has been in a lot of cases, veterans don't go out and look for these things. You almost have to force them to do things. So it's the easier you can make it, the better off you are.
Right.
Well, that's one of the purposes of this show, is to bring that information to the veteran, and sometimes bring it to the veteran's wife. Maybe
she'll make them do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe she'll make a move.
Nice.
I'm sorry.
Agreed. This is a great thing about this is best practices is what we learn. Something I've never known about, something we could bring to the state of New Jersey as well. Appreciate you sharing.
And what I can do is I will forward you the actual bills, and then you can look at the bill that's already in play. That's perfect. Just copy this.
Peter, is there a phone number or an email address or something where if somebody wants to get in touch with your organization, once again, it's the New Jersey
Veterans Chamber of Commerce.
Veterans Chamber of Commerce. I got it together now.
It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful. So if anyone's interested in learning more about it, contacting us, go to njveteranschamber.com.
Yeah.
I have a question for you on rotating back to civilian life, and I will tell you my own experience. I was 2 years, 2 months, and a day in Iraq. I came back to Fort Bragg, and I was 5 days, and I was back on the street in New York. Never saw a doctor, never saw anybody from the VA, watched a couple of slideshows, DVDs, turned in my gear, and I was back on the streets. Has the transition improved any in your case? Is it longer? Did you get to see anybody? And I'll explain why after you talk a little bit about your transition.
So, yes. So it's kind of funny. We dealt with a lot of NATO forces when I was over there. We dealt with the Dutch, with those Swedish, and interestingly, we found that a lot of these soldiers, when there were 6-month rotations versus 1-year rotations, which we had, we found that they had 2-week R&R periods in that 6-month period. So for us, we only got a 2-week leave period for 1 year that we were there. And if you served for less than a year, you didn't get any leave at all. So you were there the entire time without any break. The Dutch soldiers, I just came back from Amsterdam visiting some of my friends. I got a meritorious service medal for one of my friends who I served with. Presented her, surprised her when I was there with the whole Dutch contingent that was there. They got to go to Greece for 3 days. So before they went home, they got to see a priest, they got to see a psychiatrist, they got to go and decompress in Greece. They were, drink, hang out, commiserate, kind of if there was any issues, and then they came back to Holland and they were able to go back to their jobs. So nothing like that for us. We went to Kuwait, got stuck there for a week.
Yep,
From Kuwait, I made my way to Fort Bliss. Spent about 3-5 days in Bliss and just basically turning in equipment. They did do a quick health check on us. We had a physician's assistant ask us about questions.
At least you saw a PA.
We did see a PA.
I did not.
We did, yeah. We did get to see a physician assistant. They did have a questionnaire for us. So we did have, it sounds like a bit of improvement from what you had, but not much.
Not much.
Yeah.
And the reason I said this is when I talked to the legislators about transition, I said, I'm a mentor in the vet court here on Staten Island. I've had 3 successes, and I've got another veteran right now in. Every one of those veterans, in my mind, when I talk to them, has PTSD. Some shape, 2 of them are really bad, and 2 of them had traumatic brain injuries. Got out of the service, never were treated until they got stuck in veterans court. And I'm saying to myself, gee, why? It's because of the stress of combat.
Couldn't have been prevented?
With the transition. And the analogy I use is that if you were in prison and you got released, you have a parole officer. You've got somebody watching you, but if you're a veteran, you got nobody. You're on your own. And particularly reservists where you're not in a unit, you're back. It's yourself. There's nobody. The 50 people I deployed with all went 50 different ways out of Fort Bragg. There's nobody. Your buddies are gone.
No buffer.
There's nothing. And you're back on the streets. And that's why I asked you about transition.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Same thing. Nothing's changed too much.
Yep.
And if you consider what Paul's talking about, and then you add in the factor of the number of suicides.
I was just going to say
I
that.
tied the 2 together.
I was going to say the same thing.
PTSD is something they didn't even identify until after Vietnam.
Right. Yep. Right.
I mean, I think probably 80-90% of the guys that
Of
were in
course.
Nam came out with PTSD.
Of course.
Yep. And you carry it with all your life.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
it's and you would think that the government or the military would at least get smart and identify these things when they first let
Before
you go.
it becomes a problem
Exactly.
in society,
Yeah.
because that's what happens.
I mean, you came out of service from Vietnam. You came back here and you got booed.
Yeah.
You got booed.
Yeah.
I mean, we were baby
Baby
killers.
killers. Right.
So, well, I can't thank you all for partaking in today's show. Like I said, it's a special show because father and son, 2 colonels, can't go wrong with that, and a wealth of information. Once again, what was that email for you? The New Jersey Veterans Chamber of Commerce? Got it.
It's a NJ Veterans Chamber.
Okay. Very good. Look that up. Go online and look it up, and do what Paul asked you. Call your senators. And you just keep watching in honor of. This is our honor and our pleasure to bring this show to you and to give you information to help you improve your life. Thank you so much. We love you.